On the heels of their very, very disappointing week 1 home opening loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, the Mike Vrabel era has gotten off to quite the rocky start. And now they find themselves traveling to their South Beach House of Horrors to take on Tua Tagovailoa, the embattled Mike McDaniel, and the Miami Dolphins, they themselves also a desperate football team who had a pathetic week 1 showing and need a win too, which begs the question that Fitzy and Mego are going to try to answer on the latest Six Rings. Is this a must-win week 2 affair for the Pats at Hard Rock Stadium? We'll ask that and many more hard questions on your official Fins Pats week 2 Pats preview on Six Rings. All right, I'm out of breath. Here we go.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. It's all about winning, all right? Win on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
Celebrating the heroes of Foxborough's past.
And with a good block. Look at Grover. All the way. Watch the block of number 73, John Hanna.
The champions of the dynastic era.
Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
The Patriots of tomorrow.
We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day.
And the fans whose faith never wavers. This is Six Rings and Football Things.
I think the view of it is, it's got to be a long-term vision of where this guy's going to be. It's going to be a really good player. Quarterback's a really difficult position to play, and there's a million things that, you do between cadence and understanding the defense and your footwork and your throwing mechanics and reading coverage and pocket movement, play faking, handling pressures, seeing defenses. And I would say the biggest thing for me is just, he's a young quarterback. He's a young quarterback.
He's a young quarterback. That's the biggest thing for your Pats OC after an offseason spent trying to break him down from his previous learnings of AVP in the Gerard Mayo Patriots era and turn Drake Maye into what many believe he can and should be, which is a stud of a starter in his sophomore season with the New England Patriots in the NFL. Is Drake the guy? I'll Stephen A. Smith it. Megan Ottolini, do you believe that Drake Maye can be a star for the New England Patriots? I'll take your thoughts after I finish yelling at you right now. That's one of the questions we'll answer today on Six Rings. Hello, here's Mego, everybody, at Megan_Ottolini. Your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens here. Let's just get to that first real quick. How much of a massive, Zeppelin-sized overreaction do you believe everybody had to not only the Patriots' week 1 loss against the Raiders at home, but how Drake played and the topic that has just been bombarding us every day on the radio, which is, Josh and Vrabel, is that an arranged marriage from the Crafts? Josh and Drake, can they work together? And is Josh putting too much on Drake Maye's plate?
Yeah, I think that it was way more of an overreaction than I expected. The loss, I felt in the first 48 hours, just the negativity that came from this fan base about, oh my God, it looks just like last year. Maybe the offense looks even worse. Like, I'm going to say from the jump, I don't think that there is a universe in which you can argue that the team looks the same as it did last year.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was boring football. Like, the second half was horrible, but the first half was certainly a better product than what you saw for the majority of last year. With Drake in particular, I do think that he deserves the, I wouldn't say cynicism, but the criticism. Like,
Mhm.
I believe that he still deserves the benefit of the doubt because of the limited experience that he had last year, the limited experience he had going into the league, something we've talked about a lot, even comparing him to some others in his draft class, like, for example, Jaden Daniels. But at the same time, if you look at that eye test and even just the numbers that back that up, Fitzy, like, I wrote about this for WEI today. His accuracy was so bad in that game. The percentage of his on target throws was 64%. I mean, this is a guy who was like in the mid 70% last year, and that's where you really want any starting quarterback to be. The only other quarterback from his draft class who was anywhere near inaccurate as him in week 1 was Caleb Williams. And if you watch that Monday night game, Caleb Williams was terrible in the second half. So again, I think he deserves the criticism, but not the cynicism.
That's a very, very, very fair assessment. And by the way, I just want to point out that I appreciate Mego finding the time to join us on a Friday morning for our Pats at Fins Week 2 Six Rings Pod preview of New England versus Miami, as she had just enough time to lick her wounds and come up from the well of disappointment that was watching her Commanders underwhelm and get Go Pack Go'd into the ground on Thursday night on Amazon Prime. What did you say to me? What did you say to me beforehand? Watching last night, you were like, the Commanders' offense was so bad, it was like Josh McDaniels
Well,
calling
the
plays.
style of it, the amount of screens and these quick out routes and flats and the passes behind the line of scrimmage, I felt like, oh my God, this is so Josh McDaniels-y. Like, I do feel like I'm watching the Patriots offense, because that's for another podcast. But the Washington Commanders are supposed to have this dynamic, high flying offense, Cliff Kingsbury style, powered by Jaden Daniels. And we saw none of that last night. So
It felt very plotting. Yes, that's the
I'm
word,
just
right?
so tired, Fitzy, of of watching bad football. And unfortunately, I think in this Sunday matchup, we're going to see a lot more bad football. And I'm like, God, can we have something just 20% closer to Ravens Bills? Just 20%. That's all I'm asking. I'm
I
not
think,
asking all the way
honestly,
there.
no, I think you, me, Football America, like, I know for a fact, regardless of my own personal situation, that I, just as a general football fan, needed Ravens at Bills last Sunday night to redeem week 1 overall, redeem the Sunday for me, and just put my faith back in football, that like it can be entertaining and dynamic and exciting, because the Patriots Raiders game was like, honest to God, like, talk about
Boring.
like, God, it was a wait in the dentist office. It was absolutely brutal. It was sitting reading a book because your phone ran out of batteries while you wait to get called up at the DMV. Like, it was bad. It was terrible football. The Raiders at least gave us a couple of plays that were spark-ish, if you will, like the long pass to Trey Tucker for 6 to set the precedent. And that was a bad precedent at that as well. I pulled this stat. This one came courtesy of our old pal Teddy J from the afternoon show. He grabbed this one. The Patriots, of the many different things they need to do, this just talks about how plodding and how meticulous and how unsexy, if you will, the Patriots offense was last week. Last week, the Patriots had 21 first downs. Do you know how many total yards they accumulated in those 21 first downs?
I'm not even going to guess. Just tell me.
21 plays ran on first down for a total of 55 yards. That's how bad they were in the run game, in the screen game, in the pass game, the whole schlemiel schlemazel. However, the Raiders had 27 first down plays for a total of 4.5 times as many yards for the Patriots, 240 yards. I mean, it's like Chip Kelly had Travion Henderson on his college offense that just won the national championship, and then went across the hall to Patrick Graham, who used to work with Josh McDaniels calling defense for the Raiders, because obviously the Patriots offensive coordinator is the former head coach of the Raiders. And he said, hey, by the way, I had this kid. They're going to try to use him on a lot of bubble screens, wheel routes, etc. He's going to be the safety valve, and they're going to run him away from Max Crosby, because that's what everyone likes to do. So just defend that side of the field, take away their hottest, most dynamic route, force Drake over the middle, and we should be fine. And oh, by the way, I know exactly where to find all the loopholes in this suddenly hyper aggressive, undersized Terrell Williams blitzing defense. It's literally like the Raiders had the Pats game plan heading into Sunday. And then on top of it all, gray skies, sloppy conditions, poor execution. You nailed it. Drake May and the Patriots deserve lots of criticism, just not the cynicism that Vrabel can't get it done, Drake ain't it, and the season is already in the toilet.
Yeah, all that said, though, Fitzy, I think this is a really tough spot that they're in for week 2. We all know that historically, since 2020, really since 2019, that the Patriots have struggled mightily. Going down to Miami to see the Dolphins doesn't help that it's in early September. So again, it's going to be kind of a conditions dependent game. We see guys struggle with the heat down there, with the dehydration, the humidity, all of that. And I think that being down, most likely Christian Gonzalez again. I'm not sure if Mike Vrabel has put that out there.
He hasn't
yet,
practiced, but it's not
he
official
hasn't
as of
practiced.
recording time. No.
Okay, so I don't think he's going to play.
No.
I'm worried about this defense giving up chunk plays to Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I'm more worried about the offense being able to rip off their own chunk plays and being able to match any scoring ability that Tua shows, and the defense being able to force Tua into the 3 turnovers that he had in that horrible week 1 loss against the Colts. Like, I do think a lot of Patriots fans are looking at this game and saying, well, at least you have the Dolphins, who look like they gave up on the season in week 1, but Dolphins fans and media are looking at the Patriots and going, well, they're not who everybody thought they were going to be. They're not back yet. That's a huge work in progress. And so you're catching them at a great time because they haven't figured anything out.
I think we can safely say at the end of Sunday's game, one of these teams will be finished. Back to you, Megan. No, honestly, sorry. I'm not going to apologize for any bad jokes. I'm in that kind of mood. But also, I can't believe, like, when we say, like, at the top and we name the podcast, like, is this a must-win week 2 affair for the Patriots in Miami? It's not the hottest take or craziest supposition, because week 3 is home against the Steelers, who looked real good beating the Jets week 1. And I think they're going to squeak by the Seahawks and Mike McDonald's Ravens-esque defense on Sunday. So you could have a 2-0 Aaron Rodgers-led team with an angry Jabril Peppers on the other side of the ball going against a Patriots team that could be spiraling. Now, you do have everything else going for you, aside from the fact that you haven't won down in Miami since 2019. And Tua, when starting for the Finns under Mike McDaniel, he's never lost, period, as a starting quarterback to the Patriots, let alone with Mike McDaniel. So the Dolphins looked the only team that looked worse or that looked more limp offensively in week 1 than the Patriots was the Dolphins, when they got absolutely pantsed at Lucas Oil Stadium by Daniel Jones and the Colts. The Dolphins were so bad, they actually made Daniel Jones and the Colts offense never punt. They never punted that's like 2003, 2004 Peyton Manning shit right there. Like, They made Steve Buscemi look like Brad Pitt. I was saying to a buddy, like, oh my God, something that should be so ugly was suddenly so beautiful and spectacular and striking. And now they go home where Tyreek Hill has not had a play over 30 yards in a year, Mego. So he is definitely not what he used to be. Waddle himself is a little dinged up. And they should be running the ball because you can run the ball against the Patriots. But Achane's a little dinged up. And the Dolphins' offensive line is such a mess. They're bringing in 2 new guys for the right side. So Milton Williams should just be in overdrive, blitzing up the gut all day long. I expect him to have a huge game on Sunday. And then on the left side, they're so desperate for depth, they signed our old pal Cole Strange off the Cleveland Browns practice squad. I mean, talk about like a Spider-Man meme game, but it's like 2 very gimpy old like Spider-Men that could barely get up out of a wheelchair.
Yeah, I don't expect a lot of like great football. I do think that the one thing that you should be able to expect is that Drake May is going to be a lot better. I think that the biggest thing that came out of that week 1 loss and the conversation around it, whether it's does he have too much on his plate or is he the guy, is the Drake May aspect of it. And I saw you talking on WEI Afternoons and the clips that were going around, Fitzy, about like, we got to have patience with this guy. And of course, that's what all the rational people in the media and Patriots watchers are saying is, of course, you had to give this guy patience. He's so young. He's so untested. He's so developmental. I just don't know that on the other side, it's fair to ask a fan base that has really been waiting with their wheels spinning since 2019, like to tell them, no, you have to be patient again. There's been a lot of patience, and I understand the 2 decades of utter dominance, and so it's like, well, these are maybe your just desserts. But at the same time, I feel for the fan base who's saying, well, we had the coach last year that didn't make any sense and had to walk back his statements all the time. Now you have Mike Vrabel. Things were at least supposed to be organized, and you were at least going to go out there and have good clock management and not have penalties. And the quarterback was going to be moving in a nice linear development track that you could, look at and plot out and say, this is when he'll be a Pro Bowler. It's just not the reality of these rebuilds. And so as much as like we all want to sit here and say, be patient with Drake May, I understand if people are throwing their hands up and going, I'm sick of doing this every single season.
6 Rings Machiavelli watching live on YouTube as we record the Patriots Dolphins Week 2 6 Rings preview says, I would not be surprised if the Finns blow our doors off after that butt whooping they just took. How could Miami lose by 25 and the score was misleading because it was more flop-sided than that? How could Miami then turn around, come home, be tightly buttoned up, fully vested, and ready to dominate? Look, I understand the heat. Yes, they're making the Patriots sit on the sideline where all the sun comes in. We've had our old pal Christian Fourier tell us, like, you prepare for the heat, and you keep telling yourself all week, like, it's going to be hot. Then you get there, and you're like, oh, holy shit, it's way hotter than I expected.
It's
Like,
horrible.
you're just wearing a sweater and a vest of sweat all day long, and you do get gassed. And by the third quarter, you start to feel your legs going out from under you. And yeah, dehydration's an issue. And Miami gets to wear the whites, and the Pats are going to be in the dark unis and whatnot. The Pats seemingly, like, both teams have a ton to play for. No one wants to start 0-2. They're already calling for Mike McDaniel's head down there. They had a bad offseason. They look like a team in total turnaround. But a desperate team like that, will call for any and all desperate measures. And they've had success against the Patriots. And it's yet again, not that there's ever such a thing, Mego, as a, quote, good week to not have Christian Gonzalez, your best defensive player, maybe your best overall player, period. But not having Gonzo is going to stress Carlton Davis, who didn't exactly have a great week one, got cooked on that 3rd and 20 where they blitzed and Dante Thornton double moved him, and they gave up that big first down that kind of iced the game. Alex Austin's fine. DJ James, who everyone was saying in the offseason, like, hey, we got another Malcolm Butler. No, we don't. Yeah, we got Malcolm Butler 2021 is in. Bye. Thanks.
Gone.
I mean, it's so it's just, this all feels so strange. Like, one of these teams is going to be 0-2. One could end up firing their coach by the end of the month, and the other one may have the fan base, the aforementioned fan base you were speaking in reference to, who spent the entire offseason being so optimistic that Foxborough football pride was back. And yet now the Pats, don't call them Mayo-esque just now. It's just there's so much renovating that Vrabel has to do. How he can get this team to play organized, competent football while gutting and stripping the way he's been doing with no defensive coordinator again this week is going to be a marvel.
Yeah, and I think what we're dancing around that was also a big disappointment in week one, and that you're looking forward to them hopefully establishing in week two, is the run game. You mentioned, are they going to be using Travion Henderson more? Well, are they going to do more than run the ball 3 times in the second half? And of course, you have to respond and adjust to what's going on the other side, what the other team is giving you. But I think even just for Drake May's benefit, they have to lean on the run game. They have to find some traction there just to support him, because him dropping back and trying to attempt 46 passes, especially when early in the game he's already sailing them over, not just Pop Douglas, who's a little guy out there, but Hunter Henry, who's not a little guy.
He's a wee little thing.
You gotta have more balance on offense. And I think what's frustrating is that these are not issues like, oh, so-and-so isn't catching the ball, or Stephon Diggs doesn't look exactly like he did right before the injury with Houston. Not these things that maybe we expected, but these much more basic, fundamental, just not there for the team issues. Like they just weren't there in week one. And so I'm predicting an ugly, low-scoring game. I think it is much closer to a coin toss than people want to accept, because the Dolphins looked so bad in week one, but you have not shown a ton for yourselves.
Yeah, we're going to trample. The Dolphins look so bad. It's going to be an easy fish squish. Like, no, it's not. Again, I'd like to remind you, it's been over half a decade. Tua doesn't lose to these guys. McDaniel's still a good offensive play caller. He doesn't have the full comportment of Turbo Tyreek and Wow Waddle and, amazing Achane like they have had in previous seasons. But at the same time, you got to first of all, like I always tell my kids, and like any good coach would tell his team, the team you're playing this Sunday, regardless of, Belichick was famous for this. I remember one time he almost ripped Michael Hawley's head off because the Patriots in 2015 were playing the Jags, and the Jags hadn't won a game yet. And Hawley asked, something along the lines of like, is this an easy game to overlook, because you guys are so good? And Belichick said, like, I don't understand the question. Like, this is one of those times where he was being obtuse, but I understand the obtuseness that he was displaying, because you play to win every game, obviously. But if you don't treat every game, your next opponent, like they're the most difficult team you're facing this season, if not in years, then you can run the risk of your guys not being motivated, not getting up for the game, and not delivering their best performance. To your point, Mego, also one of our pals, Michael Rodnick, a favorite on Twitter who's watching live on YouTube right now, points out, here you go, guys. 18 running plays for only 26% of the plays Sunday in 50 passing plays, which accounted for 74% of the offense in week 1. That is not a winning ratio. That is exactly, I would say, almost the opposite of game script and what I thought the Pats would be. Why were, no offensive lineman got like a massive failing grade from PFF. Garrett Bradbury was great. Will Campbell was fine. Onwenu was very good. Morgan Moses and, Jared Wilson struggled a bit at times, but nobody was so bad that Drake was, running for his life like a chicken with his head cut off. Why couldn't they get the running game going? That still confounds me.
Yeah, I especially because when we talked about our concerns with the offensive line, a lot of what I went to is they've shown themselves to be pretty good in the run blocking game. And so I
Mhm.
thought that they would go to that much more. I don't know. And that's where the disparity or however you want to read it between Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel is fascinating because it's like who is ultimately making that call? Is this like a Bill Belichick style system with Josh McDaniels where he would kind of take the offensive part of his brain out and hand it over to McDaniels and say, use this as you want. That's your side of the ball. Or is Vrabel getting in there at halftime and helping to call the adjustments that he wants them to make? Because the second half of that game just had no momentum. And I think that's
None.
something on both
None.
sides where it felt like every time something good happened, they would almost like let up the next play and something bad would happen. Like they would allow something bad to happen. And I think that has to be one of the key focuses along with establishing the run game, along with not giving up the chunk plays on defense. Along with tackling. I mean, the number of just tackles that they missed, the number
Mhm.
of yards after catch that the Raiders were able to pull
Oh my
off.
God. And
And
Jacoby
they
Myers was open every play, and
they
Brock
just
Bowers is
right, but they just these simple fundamental things, I think that's where people's disappointment with the team and why they're being cynical about it is because you thought they might not have the most talent on the team
right.
or in the league. They might not have the flashiness. They might not even have all the experience, but they'll be a fundamentally sound team because it's a variable team. And that's just not what we saw.
Do you believe or subscribe in the idea that this is how's it been put, that this is scheme over team, that instead of playing to Drake's strengths, and I don't want to get into the whole like does he have it, because while I was a proponent of trading back and getting Penix or Nix, I liked all of them. Drake was like my 4th or 5th quarterback of the 6. I was a big JJ McCarthy fan. Yes, I married into a Michigan family. Yeah, it's always go blue for me. And I love his savage killer instinct. Oh, yeah. Well, the first 3 quarters on Monday night, he looked like garbage, Fitz. Sure. But guess what he did? Found a way, like Brady used to do, and made a regular out of for 20 years. That you can give me one Brady-esque comparison with JJ, since Brady loves him so much and they're both Michigan Wolverines. But he snatched victory from the jaws of defeat with a savage performance. And you saw the way that his head coach and the team rose up around him. Drake does not have that fire, but you got to just let him be who he is. So has Josh figured a way to like just let Drake be who he is, or is he trying to put too much structured, analytical, cerebral play calling on the kid's plate when all he wants to do is kind of like be an oversized Brett Favre and gunsling?
I don't think you can blame the scheme for what we saw in week 1 because the scheme wasn't telling him to throw inaccurate passes and to have his mechanics break down at different points in the game that led to those inaccurate passes. Scheme didn't tell him on the first 2 series to just take off once the first read wasn't there and try to pick up, I don't know, between 1 and 3 yards with his
Mhm.
legs. Like that's not scheme. That to me is more inexperience and being the raw product that was brought in through the draft and having so much of last year not be as productive as you'd want it to be for a rookie quarterback. So no, I like as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Josh McDaniels offense, and I joke that watching Washington last night, I was like, ugh, the quick game, the screens,
Mhm.
like this is so boring. It's not my
Right.
favorite scheme. You can't blame the scheme for Drake's performance last week. I really don't think so. I think it would behoove him to find a way to flourish within that system, and then they can open it up for him. But if you can't do the fundamental stuff, you can't
Right.
just say, okay, we'll just let him go be a gunslinger and run around like suddenly he's Brett Favre. That's just not the way that it works when you have players as good at this level.
Okay, look at this. This is someone who commented earlier in our stream who's watching in Facebook. He was talking about the experience at the stadium last week, and I think this speaks to the discontent of Pats fans at large and why there was such unrest this week following that torpid performance. Sorry to bust out an SAT word, but it's one of my favorites, and that's exactly what it was. Look it up, people. This is my 32nd season with tickets, and Pats fans are extinct. The visitors are now mocking us at home. It's miserable. I don't expect miracles. Please just show improvement. They were never winning 10 games this year. Just improve like the early Parcells era. That is literally like Joe Biller. Thank you for sharing that with us, because that's all I've been preaching. I think that's all anybody like Mego, who does not have an emotionally vested interest in the team but covers and discusses them on a pretty damn regular basis, could realize, want, and ask for. This year is not about like, oh my God, Josh Allen, the Bills were lucky to win the AFC. It's like, you saw how good they were the other night. You're not at that level. You're not going to be there anytime soon. All you want to know is that the ship has turned around, and this is what we wanted last year. We didn't get. As a matter of fact, the ship crashed into the canal, and then the shipping port was a mess, and there was a fire and insurance claims. We don't need another Fort McHenry Bridge, the football edition. What we need is the ship to gently turn around and realize that it's got the right people and it's carrying the cargo the right way, and the fans can follow it, and there are better days ahead. I think anyone asking for more now is out of their freaking mind.
Yeah, and I think, again, this comes down to, against the Dolphins, being able to do the basic stuff, the fundamental stuff, and it's just having an accurate quarterback, establishing the run game, being able to tackle defensively. As much as we are like, oh, Gonzalez isn't going to be out there, and your secondary has these holes in it, and oh, who's Steph Diggs? You got to do the basic stuff first. And I think that's the key to getting an ugly win on Sunday. I know the Dolphins are favored. Somebody mentioned that in the chat earlier. I'm aware of that, but I think that the team is better. The Patriots are better than who they showed to be in week one. I think both of these teams are better than they showed to be in week one.
Oh,
I think that they're
sure.
capable of a win. It's just going to have to be a lot different fundamentally than on Sunday.
Yep. And I would just like to remind everyone, just had a comment in the chat about, hey, Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until year 3. No, he was not the MVP. He wasn't playing at an MVP caliber level, but halfway through year 2, Brian Daboll finally got through to him, and his superpowers were unlocked, and he started to become the guy who he is now, which is the best player in the NFL, hands down, no questions asked. That's why, I think I've mentioned this before in one of our chats, Mego. You wait until around Halloween to start like levying a verdict on like Drake. He started 12 games in the freaking NFL. My God, he needs to complete a full NFL season and get about halfway through a season with Josh and that new offense, which some people have said is calculus and some people have said isn't, if you just love football and you understand the way that he schemes things up. So patience, people. I think that's like, yes, you deserve better than last week. Mego's line. No cynicism, but yes, criticism. That's completely apt and totally appropriate. Just be patient, give them a chance to pull it all together, and hopefully they escape with a win, because while it'll make the post-game show and life easier on the radio next week, I don't want to live in a world where the Patriots are 0-2, staring down the barrel of 0-3 with the Joe Billers, Juan Vasquez's, Keith Ventos, Jeff Stenbergs, and everyone else of the world saying, holy smokes, I want an emotional and a literal refund. So let's give them why don't we throw the kids a score prediction to try to elevate the mood and boost the sports serotonin levels on the pod.
I'm going to go with 20-17 Patriots. Again, I think that this is it's a ugly game. I think there's going to be at least one turnover offensively. I think there's going to be a turnover from the Dolphins. I think it's going to be pretty ugly football. But I think that you walk away with a very close win, and maybe we walk away saying Drake May looks better than he did in week 1, but we're still not sure about who this team is or where they're going or how many more wins will be in September, October, November. But you at least don't sit there with a big goose egg.
Yeah, I see the Patriots. My idea for what the Patriots need to do is they need to
make
fast.
Field goals.
Yeah, they chose the wrong kicker. Honestly, that was not a fair and open competition. I think they were always going to go with the kid that they spent draft capital on. He's far from Rohrwasser, but I don't think Borregales is quite dialed in just yet. You can't miss a 40-yarder regardless of the conditions. I think even his special teams coach this week said it was bad foot placement. Like, Well, if all you do is kick, foot placement is probably something you should focus on and nail. But yes, they need to make field goals, and they're going to have plenty of opportunities to do so. The Dolphins have a good front. They can rush the passer for sure. So the offensive line is going to have to be on its game with Chop Robinson, who's got one of the best names in football, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, etc. However, the back end ain't what it used to be. Minka Fitzpatrick is back. No Jalen Ramsey. Old pal Jack Jones in the house, so watch out. Jack. The Patriots need to start early in tempo. They need to get a couple of confidence-building passes in the sling for Drake. Then you get the run game going, and you try to control the tempo all game long. Fins will make it close late, but I'll go 23-17. The Pats get their first win on the season. Not to say that everything is right in the world of Foxborough football again, but it sure as hell is better than 20-13 Raiders, and it didn't even feel that close. Any final thoughts, Mego, and or some promotionals as to where the kids can read you, see you, hear you, and more?
Yeah, I would say you can just check out the article that I wrote for WEI.com today. It's all about Drake's accuracy / inaccuracy, who he was last year versus who we saw in week 1 and who we should see in week 2 on Sunday.
All right. I love it. And of course, you can always follow her on the socials at Megan_Ottolini. And you guys
and I'll be on TV tonight if you want to tell your bartender.
Whoa, sick brag, bro. Big time Charlie over here.
Just trying to get the ratings up all around,
Boston Sports Tonight, 10 o'clock on the NBC Sportsnet New England. I love it.
Exactly.
Love it. I still call it Comcast Sports New England. You guys know where to find me. I'll be on the afternoon show today. We got some fun stuff for you. Six Rings post-game show Sunday right after. We're not going to do a 3-minute post-game show at 7:50 like last week after a long Sox game in Arizona. We'll be on live fielding your calls. Hopefully more festivities than frustrations on WEEI Sunday, 4 to 6:30. All right, great chat, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For Mego, this is Fitzy and everyone at Six Rings. Appreciate you. There is your week 2 Pats at Fins preview, Six Ring style. We'll talk to you soon. Let's go get him. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. God bless. And as always, go Pats.